Hello, I am Alberto Villarreal, Managing Director of Nepanoa Transformation Advisory. Today, we will speak to Pepe Galvan, the founder and CEO of Six Pack Mental. We will discuss the future of work post-COVID-19, how it impacts individuals and businesses. Thank you for joining.
Hello, Pepe. How are you?
Good, Beto. How are you doing?
Good. It's been a while since the last time we spoke over Zoom because I gotta admit, you and I speak quite often over WhatsApp.
Yes, we do, and usually it's in Spanish. So I think it's been a very, very long time since we spoke in English.
To be honest, I had forgotten you had a British accent.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know Pepe, his mother was actually born and raised in the UK.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. Yes, and my father is Mexican.
Your father's Mexican, and if I recall correctly, after college, you spent a couple of years or months in the UK, number one, chasing your professional soccer player dream, and number two, doing diverse jobs, to say the least.
Yes, exactly. I was playing football, soccer, for those in America, and I was also working. I worked all sorts of jobs, but I had my degree is in IT, so in the end I was working in IT consulting, which
Yes.
I hated. So, but then fortunately I was able to change my careers, and I'm very, very happy with what I do nowadays.
That's fantastic. So Pepe, you hate IT consulting. I devote my life to transformational projects for international companies working in the US and Latin America. And guess what? IT is a big part of my job, my friend.
Yes. But well, I mean, that was more specific, like developing software. It was just very, I would say completely different. I actually never understood what I was selling.
There you go. So Pepe, the reason that I wanted to speak with you at this time is because I am always amazed of what you do. The way that you help people transform themselves, whether that is getting fit, learning a new skill, helping a business owner expand their market share, working with top athletes to either rekindle their career or stay on track. Every time I share any conversations with you, or any time you share stories with me, I am amazed about what you do. And I wanted to have a conversation with you specifically around what are people feeling today. Right now, we are going through COVID-19. We are on week 4 of quarantine here in the US. You are based in Puebla, Mexico, and it's week 3 of being quarantined. So we're in the midst of COVID-19. But there is a post-COVID-19 world. And as you know, people are nervous. The regular person is nervous. And they're thinking, will I be needed at my job? What type of skills do I need to succeed later on? And many of them are even planning, hey, guess what? This is my opportunity. This is my opportunity to go out there and make the best out of the whole situation. So I wanted to hear your overall perspective about COVID-19 and what's next for the individual, not necessarily for businesses out there.
Yes. Well, the first thing that I have noticed, and if we can start there, is that I've realized that there are two types of people right now. Basically, there's the first group of people that dismiss that this is happening. So basically they say, it's not happening. I really don't see how this could affect me. This won't happen to me. This is something external. This is not in my city. This is not in my country. So I think that's the first type of people. And I would say that this happens because of a thing that's called normacy bias, which is basically when you see that everything, at least around you in your ecosystem, has not been affected yet. So you say, I can't see it. So imagine if you're in your house and suddenly your neighbor knocks on the door and he says or she says, hey, the person that is in front of you told me that your apartment is on fire. And you're like, what? And then you look around and you can't see anything, you can't smell anything. So you see everything around you is normal. But somebody that you might trust a bit, you're like, well, okay. So you might leave, but you just start walking, you're cautious, but you're not running out. But then they say, out, you have to get out, you have to get out. But you don't move very quickly, or you might stay because at least what you can see and what you can perceive has not changed yet. So that's why you say, that won't happen to me. This is not real. And that's why a lot of people still continue to not follow, let's say, what governments or the health, whatever it is, organization is saying.
Yeah, the health organizations. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So this is the first thing. So if we're trying to understand, well, why do people dismiss this? This is the reason. It's called enormity bias. But then the second group of people is those people that I would divide it in two. One, those that panic, or those that want to rush it, which both can be an issue. Those that panic, that basically say, look, I need to go hide, buy as much toilet paper as I can, and then just stay there and not do anything and wait until this gets solved. So they're panicking. They're just like in panic mode. But then the second one, and that's where I would say that most of us are in that bucket, are the ones that we want to rush it. Those achievers, those entrepreneurs, those business owners that basically were saying, I want to solve this as quickly as possible. What can I do? I can't sit still. I have to do something in order to change this. However, the challenge with this is that this situation is completely outside of our control, and it's affecting so many things that are outside of our control that it leaves us in a very closed space as to how much we can do right now.
True.
So that's very challenging for us, those that are overachievers, because we really want to move things very quickly. So here is where I present, and this is not my idea or my system, but this is a system that came from the military as to what to do in a challenging situation when you're facing crisis. But I would say this is perfect when it's not happening and you have to jump and leave the building, which I would say this is the situation, because it's like a hurricane that you hear that it's coming, but it's taking time, and it's just like takes forever, So what do I do? So this is a system that's called the OODA and it stands for observe, orient, decide, and take action. Observe, orient, decide, and take action. And I think this is fantastic because the first thing that you do is, you observe what is happening. And this is something that unconsciously I started doing while this was developing, the COVID-19, because I said, I need to see what's going to start to happen before making a decision, before acting. So that was my decision. I'm going to observe. I'm just going to see what's happening. And this actually, I think in this situation is a competitive advantage, because people have been deciding on things and then they have to change immediately because everything is changing. We don't know when this will end. That's the challenge.
That is the issue. Yes.
So, and the other thing is that this is, if you think about it, this is the first time that something like this happens in the history of humanity at this scale, where we're so connected. So obviously that's helping the virus to spread. But the other thing is that the mental virus, the infodemic, not the pandemic, the infodemic is really affecting us, because now we're just overwhelmed with information. So that affects obviously our state. And I focus a lot on performance. I work a lot with my clients on what helps you perform at your best. So the first thing is observe what is happening. The second one is orient. Where am I? Where do I stand? With this situation that is happening, where do I stand? So I'm in Mexico right now. So I can observe what happened in China, what happened in Europe, what's happening in the US. So at least I have some time, some extra time to start deciding and seeing what can work for me and my business. So,
Beautiful.
which I think that's very important. And then the other thing where you stand, and by observing, and I'm mixing them both, is what I've started doing is to start to see as much as I can of what's happening in
Definitely.
China. I'm following blogs, people that are there in the trenches, so you can really see what's happening. So I think this is very helpful. Observe, then you orient yourself, and then you decide. Then you say, okay,
Yes.
what am I going to do? Am I going to move to the right? Am I going to move to the left? Am I going to stay here? Because not moving is also a decision.
Correct.
And
And it may be the right decision for some too, not to move.
Exactly.
Right? You know, when you were defining the first two sets of people,
Yes.
those ones that may do nothing, you know, and others like you and I, which you and I think we're in that bucket, which is let's resolve for this and let's move forward.
Yes.
Maybe the right decision is stay still, which is one of the most difficult decisions to make.
Exactly. Because this is a situation that we've never faced. So that's very challenging for us. So
Sure.
our algorithm in our mind, in our brain, is trying to put together the pieces, and you're like, and try to figure things out. So that's the challenge.
Sure.
So then it comes take action. Okay,
Yes.
now that you've decided, now you have to do something. So if you say, I'm going to stay still, I'll stay still. And now it's really staying there and based on what you decided. But the other thing that I think that helps here is setting a deadline or a date where you will evaluate what you decided. So what I'm working a lot with my clients, usually we set goals for 3 months, a year, a month, 2 months. Now we're setting goals
for weeks,
7 to 10 days.
Correct.
We're bringing it very, 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 very close, because their business might really, really change a lot in 10 days. Who knows? I mean, if you're in tourism, or if you own a restaurant, or if you're in some sort of business that is being affected heavily with this, you just don't know, but it could change quickly. You know, you might have a university, you might have a school.
Sure.
2-3 weeks, it might change. So that's why setting something, more than a goal, a date when you will evaluate this and you will repeat the process.
Sure. Pepe, that is great insight that you bring in, and a great way to think about it. Also for individuals, right? As you know, I help companies through change.
Yes.
So with my clients, we've been doing something similar, but apart from the reactive phase, which once again, we're in week 3 in Mexico, we're in week 4 in the United States. Now we're getting to a point of, okay, what's next? What's the post-COVID-19 world look like? And how to use this time to set up a framework of thinking and a process to actually gather the right information.
Yes.
Analyze that information, be able to extract opportunities. Because believe it or not, for everybody out there, if we say we're going to go back to normal is not back to normal as we know it.
Correct.
Things will change. And specifically for businesses, they will change in the way they do business, how it affects their top line and their bottom line. It's going to change the way they interact with people, both their employees and also clients.
Yeah.
And third, it's going to be driven by technology. I mean, the way that we have seen people and businesses evolve over the last month, it has all been driven by technology, right? I mean, you introduced me to Zoom about 3 years ago. I will never forget. I will never forget. You were ahead of the curve. But look at it now, right? Everybody is using Zoom. We made fun, of my headset, but guess what? The sound quality is spectacular, and I love it, right? I was prepared for that one. But when we start thinking about the future of work specifically, Pepe, the skill sets, right? Nepanoa, we just released a paper that talks about the post-COVID-19 world. And when I looked at the skill sets that are going to be needed in the future, technology is top of the list, but it's also understanding people, because every situation is looked behind, it's looked from a different lens for everybody, right? Everybody looks at it with a different lens. So when we talk about technology and we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about automation, we talk about virtual reality, augmented reality, this skill set, it's actually needed. Those skills are needed, and we don't have enough people out there with them.
Yeah.
And I do believe that businesses will continue to accelerate, right? They were changing. Some of them were taking their sweet time, and others were leading the pack in using these technologies to differentiate themselves. What COVID-19 did, it accelerated change for everybody. It accelerated that digital transformation. So from an employee perspective, Pepe, from a people perspective,
Yeah.
what do you think people should be thinking right now
Yeah.
to adjust to those skills? What should companies be thinking right now to upskill their employees, right? So that they can obtain those skills.
Yes. Well, speaking about the employee, let's say, and this will work for anyone, but I think one of the things that employees are facing at this point, and it's happening in my business as well, where they're questioning and they say, what can I do to help, but also in a way to make a difference? Because many of the jobs have changed. Either they have more to do or less to do, but I would say most people are doing less, and it's different. So there's a lot of time in their hands, and this unfortunately leads to a lot of time thinking. So what's going to happen to my career? So we can go on and on. So I would say that the first thing is that we have to recognize that this is a time of great uncertainty. It is a time of great uncertainty. So if we want to go around it, there's no way really around it. It's uncertain. But I would also say it's always been uncertain. The only certainty is that there's going to be uncertainty. So that's something that right now it's being augmented through our senses, through our minds, because we can see it, we can feel it more, but it's always been uncertain. So the first thing that I would say is that it's normal that you could feel this, that you could be asking yourself these things. It's normal, because the moment that we start seeing this as something that, oh, why am I thinking about this so much? Well, it's normal because you care. Right now, most of us are just trying to stay alive, but that's the job of our brain. The first thing that it wants to do is to keep you alive. So when it sees something like this, when it perceives something like this, obviously you go in this mode where it's kind of fight or flight. So the first thing is to recognize that these feelings are normal. And if you're not feeling anything, then I would say, then you're not that normal. Or you're lying.
Or you're just a superior being. Yes, and everything is going to be okay.
Poker face. Poker face.
Good.
But then this is where I think a lot of the teamwork comes, but also recognizing what's the role that you're playing within the business, within the team. And this, I would say, is very important, because if we don't recognize this, we could have 5 leaders and all of them are speaking and saying to go in different directions. This would be terrible. You don't want this. So first, if you are the leader, if that's, let's say, your title, your position, you have to recognize this and step up.
Sure.
You know, and this is where I would go back to what we just mentioned. Panicking won't work. Pretending this is not happening won't work. If you want to fix it quickly, won't work. So that's why I would say, well, use a system like the OODA. So that would be the first thing. Recognize, but then also you recognize if you're not the main leader, recognize that and say, what's my role here? And this is where I would say, imagine that you are on a, let's say on a boat per se, and on a lifeboat, because it's a very similar situation. Somebody has to be the leader. And if you're not the main leader, then your role is to support the decision that this person has taken and that your efforts are going in line with that. This is the time to work together as a team and trust the leader or the leaders in this moment. But you have to understand which is your role.
Yes.
That's very important. And if I start playing a role that isn't in line with what's being expected, at least for right now, this could be a problem. eventually it could change. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be a team player, that you're not going to be
No.
motivating others, but you really have to buy in to the idea. And this is where the leader also has to decide if it's a black or white thing, or in a way he opens it up with his team. And we can discuss that a bit more as to,
Sure.
but I would say at this point, I think it's much better if the leader recognizes that he's going to be the leader, at least one or two people that could advise him, and then go from there. Because if you have too many people, then it could be a big problem.
I'm very happy that you mentioned that. What we advised a couple of our clients right when we were reacting to COVID-19, the first step, it was set up a team. And who do you need in that team? Of course, you need one or two people to be, the leaders, but they usually are already the leaders of an organization.
Yes.
Right? But also support that team with leaders in different areas of your business. And of course, this varies depending on the size of the business, right? If you're talking of a 3,000
Yes.
person business, or if it's just 10. But it's have that leadership, but also that support system. And those are the people that are communicating the right messages, that are setting the tone. But also, this is what I really take from what you just said, Pepe, is understanding their role.
Yes.
And communicating it to others. Because this is a time of crisis, and to go through the time of crisis, we all need to play our roles.
Yes.
Correct? So yeah, that's very, very interesting.
Yes.
Now, Pepe, what do you think, and I have my own perspective about this and I'll share it, but what do you think, let's fast forward, fingers crossed,
Yeah.
8 weeks, okay? Let's take 8 weeks. We're going out again, people are cautious, but we start seeing some movement in general. What could businesses do to help their people adjust to change?
Yeah.
Efficiently, right? So that they can take advantage or go back to market, as soon as possible.
Yes.
But also listening and taking care of their people.
Yes.
What do you think businesses could do, once we start, quote unquote, going,
Yes.
I'm not going to say back to normal, going back to business, going back out there.
Exactly. Yes. Well, here I think that it's important, and I know this is a word that you use a lot, and I think it's a strong word and it's a good one. But I also believe that with your employees, the way that you present it is very important. And this is how I'm going to explain.
Sure.
I'm going to explain it. Change for many people is not something that they want to do. And in this situation, given the fact that it's an external situation that affected so many things, people are going to be saying, and they're going to be fighting this idea of, why isn't it the way it was? So this idea of change, they're like, I don't want to change. So I would use two words. I would use evolve or pivot. Those are two words that I would use, because sometimes change is like, we're going 180. So people are like,
No, and it's not data.
So that would be more of a word that you could use with your employees. We're going to evolve. We're evolving in a better version of ourselves that is adjusted with the new times and the new challenges, but we've pivoted in the right way. So your message is something that they're like, oh yeah, I like this. That would be the first thing. But the second thing is, don't get fixed with the past and help them as much as possible. And if you're an employee, understand this. If you're spending your time thinking of what was, I wish it were this way, instead of what is,
Sure,
is a big difference. And this is something that affects us a lot. People usually, I'm not saying everyone, but usually if they're struggling with some sort of depression, let's say that it's because you're thinking a lot of the past and you're wishing it were the golden days. So you're thinking of something, you've built a picture, you decide to get the best things and you're stuck with that. And I'm like, I wish it were back. I wish it were that way. You remember those were the good days. So you're stuck in the past. And it's important to move as quickly as we can with what is and accept what's happening. And that doesn't mean that I like it, which are very different things. I accept that this is happening. I don't like it. And that's
Sure.
fine. But I think that's very, very important.
And Pepe, I loved your answer because I usually think at the organizational level, right?
Yes.
So the answer to this question for me is bring everybody on board.
Yes.
The answer to this question for me is listen to your
Yes.
employees.
Yes.
Because once again, the experience for each one of them was different over the past 2 months, right?
Yes.
So that you can bring the organization as a whole. And I'm so glad that you focused on the individual in your answer,
Yeah.
right? Because you as the leader of an organization, yes, the message is pivot, evolve, but also we're all going there, right? Let's bring everybody. And you worry about the health and well-being of your employees. But from a people perspective, from an individual perspective, that what you mentioned is the right mentality. Accept it and move on.
Yes.
You have to accept it, right? Yes, the past, perhaps it was better for you, but there will be good times in the future as well. And strong leaders will make sure that those messages are combined.
Yes.
Which is, hey, we are evolving, we are pivoting, we're all going together. I'll listen to what you're going through so that we can help you get there. But at the same time, hey, we're going.
Yes.
Are you on the are you on the train or are you off? Right?
Yes.
So it's a beautiful act to manage all those priorities.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
I think that overall the key with this is to have this beginner's mind, this Zen Buddhism way of seeing things, where they have beginner's mind. I'm not saying that you should follow them or whatever, but this concept of the beginner's mind is essential in my point of view, because you can start seeing things as new, as different, as always wanting to learn and what is and what could be out of this. So that would be the thing. And with leaders, and this, I wouldn't say leaders like it happens to me, but I would say that overall, if we're going to incorporate other people into the decision that we're taking or what we're doing, it's important that you first listen to them before imposing something. And second, one way you have to adopt something, because if you don't, they'll be like, well, why did you ask us? Which is challenging. Obviously, it's challenging.
But it also goes back to the methodology that you described at the beginning, right? First, you observe. That's the observe piece. You have to gather that information. So Pepe, I know I don't want to steal more of your time, but I do have one last question.
Yes.
And it is, how does the future of work look to you? What's your vision of that?
Well, I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but I do think that some of the rules will prevail. And the first one is, it's not what you believe you deserve. It's the value that you bring to the table. That's always been the case. Always been the case. So how is it going to evolve? I don't know. But what I do know is that it won't be something that, you might be saying, I deserve better. No, it's going to be the value that you bring to society in the future. That's the first thing. The second thing is that think of solving the problems of tomorrow. Because if you want to solve the problems of today, it's too late. So people might be saying, hey, I'm going to get in the toilet paper industry, in the
masks industry.
Whatever. It's too late, I mean, there might be a niche in the future, but it's thinking, okay, what's going to be that problem in the future? And you might remember this. I'm not saying that this is exactly what's happening, but I told you at one point, I said people are going to pay for human interaction. just the human interaction. And if you ask people right now, okay, what would they want? Is see my friends, a hug, my family, interact with someone else, just have a chat of something. So this is a trend that I see, that the more we expand and we grow, in a way, the more we yearn for that human connection, that deep connection that goes beyond social media, that goes beyond the mask. So that's something that I see in our industry a lot, especially working with clients. And I see it, the more I work with clients, the more I see that my job is to continue to up my game so I can play with them, so I can understand their conversation, so I can really read them and say, yes, I know what you're feeling because I've been there.
Sure.
So that's another one. Not sure if you want to jump in with something. I have two more.
I like it. Okay, there you go. Well, no, give me the other two, and then I'll react.
Well, I think it's two or three, but the other one, it's happening. I really see it working remotely. I do see businesses are going to start to see this as an opportunity. Like, oh, we don't need the office in X or Y place. Why are we spending so much money there?
Sure.
Is there something we can save? And then I do think that this is going to open up to either saying we're going to have people just work from home, or they might decide to change the way that division is operating, where they say, now we're going to have them as consultants. So this changes everything. The business might say, look, I don't want to have all this overhead. I just want to have somebody that I can say, if I'm paying you two, it's 3 or whatever, and that's it. I don't have to worry about the rest. So consultants, advisors, small business owners will be supplying, in my point of view, and it's already happening, big names. The big brand, the big name might be there, but these small advisors, consultants, small businesses are going to be supplying a lot of the workforce. And I think this is a new opportunity for new brands to emerge. And so let's say, you have a car service versus Uber. Uber, it's very difficult now to differentiate yourself. It doesn't depend on you. But there is a market. There is a market for the car service, specifically for some sorts of people that are like, I'm tired of that. And this is where I believe that smaller niches will expand. Before I'm just using very simple concepts.
I get it. No, I get it.
A wedding planner. Before a wedding planner, it was, I do events. Then it was, now I'm a wedding planner. Now it's wedding planner for the LGBT community. Very, very niche. It's market agency for wedding planners. So exactly.
Think about Nepanoa, transformation advisory for international companies operating in Latin America.
Exactly. So it's becoming very, and you might say, oh, I found that it's more with this type of business or this type of owner.
This specific industries, the automotive industries, the aerospace industry.
Exactly. So that's where I think it's going.
Great perspective, Pepe. Great perspective.
I also believe that more and more, it's not going to be what you've studied, is what you know and the results that you bring to the table.
Yes, the value. The value,
exactly.
I completely agree with you on the value piece, Pepe. I think that that's not going to change. That what you bring to the table, the value, the issues that you can resolve, and also that there's going to be a lot more players out there, perhaps not as large, but there will be many companies coming up and providing services to the large players.
Yes.
I specifically see a trend for Latin America for manufacturing, specifically after COVID-19. I think that a lot of manufacturing in Asia is going to go to Latin America.
Yes.
But not only manufacturing, even though the Latin American countries are known for their manufacturing, it's also a services piece now. And it goes in line with what you just mentioned. Now we can provide those services. Now we have time zone advantages, talent advantages. A lot of people in Latin America now speak English.
Yes.
And the quality of service that they provide for the price that they charge, it just makes sense for many businesses out there to think into outsourcing processes that make their business work
Yes.
to other regions. So it's funny because as much as COVID has separated us, I think that when we go back, it helps us be even more globalized than we were before. We're going to start reaching clients in other regions that we didn't imagine.
Yes.
And to your point about human interaction, I agree with you, but I think that would come in the long term. And let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Because this globalization that we are going to experience, in my perspective, or this accelerated globalization, it's going to trigger remote work, digital
Yes.
tools, right? But then we will get to a point, and I do not want to say 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know how, but I mean, it's going to be a curve, right? And when it starts going down, I completely agree. And I actually believe that human interaction will be a premium service, my friend.
Yes.
It'll be a premium service. It will not only be a service, it'll be a premium service.
Yes. Yes.
So definitely with you.
And I agree with you. And it's not only the human interaction, it's the right human interaction.
Correct.
So nowadays, there are tons of, let's call them coaches, marketing advisors, consultants, whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
But you then decide to work with someone that you say they are either ahead of the curve or at my level, or they really have the level of experience, or they're 1, 2, 3 feet ahead of where I am. And I know they can take me that way.
Sure.
So that is where positioning your brand overall, I would say, not only in with these niches, but overall, is that you have to, in my opinion, always think, who is really that I can serve and I can help? Because if we just go and attack everyone, either as an individual, if you want to work for a business, or either as a business owner and you want to provide more products or services, is to really understand who you're speaking to. So if you say, I always use this example, if you go into the pizza industry, and I would say we can divide it into four categories of how it started. First, it was restaurants. So if you want to eat a pizza, you only have to go to a restaurant. You have to go to a restaurant, sit down, order the pizza. It takes half an hour or more. You eat it there and you leave. And then one day somebody said, how about if we also deliver? So now it's not only sit down, it's also takeaway, but more we deliver it. But then people are like, oh, this is taking too long. So somebody said, well, now we're going to only deliver in under 30 minutes. So, oh, but I want to go and sit there and eat there. No, you can't do that. No, we'll just deliver. And then somebody else said, well, if they go to Costco or Sam's or Walmart, if they go to the fridge, there's going to be a frozen pizza, but it's for vegetarians only. Yeah. So it's understanding that whatever you're doing, in my opinion, it's heading that way more and more. It's understanding and serving your market. And instead of wanting to serve everyone, it's to serve that market, because that's where you're going to get the results, the referrals, also, and then you could pivot and then expand into something else, which is what others have done. So those are my thoughts.
Pepe, thank you very much for your time. I am very glad that you and your family are healthy throughout this.
Thanks. Likewise.
Greatly appreciate it. And sir, we'll be in touch soon.
Yes,
Take care.
Thank you.